Good morning, everybody. Well, Zuffa Boxing 1 is finally in the books, and everyone has a lot of different opinions on this. And this fight card, headlined by Callum Walsh versus Carlos Ocampo, was somewhat highly anticipated. And I think it was not necessarily because of the fight itself, which wasn't a marquee type fight. This was not a premium event, and it wasn't marketed as such. But people were just intrigued on how Zuffa Boxing obviously would do in their first event. And I'll be quite honest with you, I was a bit skeptical when I heard that the event would be in the Apex, but I was pleasantly surprised by how the whole event looked, right? In terms of, the production, I thought the production was pretty good. Now, I know Max Kellerman's getting a lot of heat, and, maybe it's fair, maybe it's not. He is glazing a little bit too much. He seems a little bit too happy to be there, because he's constantly trying to be a hype man and oversell the event, and sounds more like a PR person and not 100% a commentator like he's supposed to be. But I was listening to an interview that Dana White did, and I think it was could have been either an interview or I think it was a question that was asked of him at the post fight press conference for this event, and he was talking about how him and Max Kellerman were always in touch with each other. Um, he always wanted to hire Max Kellerman, and for 3 years they were talking back and forth. So I guess there's a mutual respect between the two men, and to to Max's credit, he always has been in favor of minimizing or getting rid of the sanctioning bodies and focusing more on having one um, just one type of entity similar to what Zuffa Boxing is doing. And he's always been a fan of that format. So it still doesn't probably warrant him being so much of a fanboy because he's finally happy he got what he wanted. But, at the same token, Max does still have knowledge. And despite that, I do think the commentary team did do a good job overall, much better than what we've seen over at DAZN. I've never been a fan of DAZN's production or their commentary team, so I'd have to say I did find the production and the commentary team better than what I've been seeing over at DAZN. So, what about the card itself? Like I said, this was not a premium type event, and it wasn't sold as such. But the good thing about it is not every card has to be a premium event. You just have to have that feeling as a consumer, at least in my opinion, that you got what you paid for, right? So if you look at the price of the subscription of Paramount Plus and you look at the event juxtaposed with the price, then yeah, I mean this was a solid card. I know it was mentioned that these were 50-50 fights or these were competitive fights, whatever. And although the scorecards didn't reflect in a lot of these contests that they were 50-50 fights, you didn't get the sense that when you were watching these fights that fighter A had no business being in there with fighter B, which is what we've seen a lot in a lot of these DAZN cards where they're just total mismatches. Now, just because a guy will win a fight 8 rounds to 2, or 6 rounds to 4, whatever, 8 rounds to 2, maybe 7 rounds to 3. Even though the scorecards will show that you know it's not highly competitive in terms of the scoring, but when you watch the rounds, there was competitive rounds in these fights, and like was said at the broadcast, guys showed up to win, whereas sometimes that's not always the case when we watch other boxing events. So I thought the card overall was a solid card. It wasn't a barn burner. I thought the fights were decent, right? You had that upset with Julian Rodriguez beating Kane Sandoval, and there was a lot of bad blood between the two of those guys before the fight, but after the fight, it was kind of nice to see them both embrace and show each other the respect. But for the most part, the favorites did win. But like I said, the quote unquote B side fighters or the opponents, right? The red, you have the blue corner guys. I think they're called right. The blue corner, which is usually the quote unquote opponent, with all due respect. Those guys showed up to win, in my opinion, and I think the card reflected that. So overall, I think this was a good event, and seeing the apex and looking at the crowd and even the crowd reaction, it kind of gave me that Blue Horizon type feel. I don't know if you guys probably, or a lot of you guys may not be um, old enough to remember those Tuesday night fight cards, and a lot of them were held at like smaller nostalgic type arenas like the Blue Horizon in Philadelphia. And this kind of gave me that feel. Like there's a place in Boston I used to go watch fights at called the Roxy, and it's smaller club show type atmosphere, but it's kind of cool because you're right on. It's almost like you're right on top of the ring. There's not a bad seat in the house, and everyone's kind of into it. So yeah, and I have to say, right, this is pretty much my assessment. And I think my assessment was pretty accurate, saying that these are guys that normally would not be shown on a broadcast platform. These guys would get buried somewhere on YouTube, and they wouldn't be able to be showcased to the public, and more specifically the American public, right? Because you're on a platform that has what 80 million subscribers, right? As opposed to being buried somewhere on YouTube where people may or may not tune in. So you got 80 million subscribers, and the potential for you to be broadcast and given that wider exposure, particularly in the U.S. market, which is what I think they're targeting here. That's what they said they're targeting here, is the U.S. market. So I think for the first show, they did pretty good. I didn't see too much to criticize, except for probably Max Kellerman's glazing and constant, you know, hyping of Zuffa boxing. He was too much of a hype man, and he was, like I said, glazing a little bit too much. But other than that, I thought the broadcast was solid. I'm a big fan of Andre Ward, so it was kind of nice to see him there. But with all that being said, I think the card was okay, and like I said, these guys that were on this card would probably not be showcased on other platforms, and if they were on other cards, they probably would have been buried somewhere, um, on YouTube, and they would not have this same level of exposure. And also Callum Walsh, where else would he have gone where he would be able to headline an event? Now, obviously, this was a step up fight for him, but again, not a marquee event, but at least these guys have the opportunity to headline, be on the main card. Where else would these guys have been on a main card? Where else would, like I said, Callum Walsh headline a card, right? So these are opportunities, right, that fighters got and will probably be getting that they were never able to get before. And just having the access to the training facilities, and being insured for the whole camp, not just on fight night. All these little perks, that these revisions to the Muhammad Ali Act, and not even that. I mean, this is just things that the Zuffa Boxing was going to offer regardless. And if they could put these um, little things, these amendments into the Muhammad Ali Revival Act, then that's great. That's great because it's a plus for the fighters, right? To be able to be insured, have more expanded insurance. So I think that's pretty cool, in my opinion. So you know, the Ali Act, I believe the Muhammad Ali Act, Revival Act, got passed through Congress and it has to be voted on in the Senate. But it looks like there's bipartisan support, so it should get passed. I'm pretty I'm pretty confident that it'll get passed, right? So going back to what to what I've said about these fighters who are usually waiting by the phone, right? And guys who aren't signed to promoters that don't have the same opportunities and don't get that schedule that they need in order to keep active. Robert Garcia, I'm gonna play an interview. Shout out to Boxing Social that they did with Robert Garcia, and I was saying a lot of these same things about a month and a half ago. Where like again, this is great. Zuffa boxing is great for that mid level guy who may not get the call, doesn't have that long term deal with a promoter, and this is a place and this is a home for fighters like that. And Robert Garcia pretty much echoed my sentiments. Let's hear what Robert Garcia had to say about the card last night and Zuffa boxing as a whole and what he thinks about it and what his fighters think about it as well.
I already have two of my young fighters
Yep.
fighting
You do it.
tomorrow, and then next month I also have another two. So I'm already working. I think it's a great thing, man. Look, they're giving opportunities to a lot of guys that are in the gyms waiting for the phone call. They're giving opportunities to a lot of guys that
Get opportunities.
don't have that opportunity with a top promoter, with a top 80, with a top rank Golden Boy. So why not? Plus they're paying very well. So all my fighters want to be there. They actually all want to be there. You know what I mean? Because they see what a six rounder is making tomorrow night compared to what they've made in their career. It's a different story. So man, I also have to do what's best for my fighters. So I'm happy. Like I said, I wish I wish we would have had one of those when I was fighting.
So this is a world renowned trainer of the year, probably destined to the Hall of Fame as a trainer, no doubt. In my opinion, I think he'll get there. If I'm being honest, right? And he trains a lot of fighters. Where he's located in California, that gym is very popular. The Robert Garcia Boxing or the Garcia Boxing Academy. That's a popular gym. A lot of fighters are in and out of there. And he said this when you talk about fighter pay, and again, you got these guys like Ariel Helwani and Luke Thomas, like always talking about fighter pay, fighter pay, fighter pay. I'm just gonna say it. It's kind of like they sound like beta cucks worrying about what millionaires are making. Like, you really gonna argue about a guy who's making three, four, $5 million? Are you really gonna really care if he's making 10, 20 million or 30 million, right? Because wouldn't you rather see a fighter make 5 million so the rest of the other money can trickle down to the mid card guys? So once again, don't tell me that it's an 80-20 split. No, the main event's an 80-20 split. The rest of the card in boxing is not getting 80-20. So I'd rather see a guy get less at the top and have that trickle down to the mid-level guys and the undercard guys. So let's compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Yeah, okay, the 1% is killing it in boxing. Or maybe even the top 10%, like Paulie Malignaggi talks about fighter pay. Maybe at a point in time in his career, he was in the top 10%. What about the bottom 90? The bottom 90 benefits under this format and this system because they're not, like Dana White says, treating these events like a going out of business deal. They're actually trying to, make some money on these events or not lose money on these events, right? Not trying to just break the bank. Now, obviously, it's a rights fee deal, and these promoters in boxing aren't using their own money. But are these events really turning a profit for the broadcaster? And like I said, a lot of people that are very wealthy individuals, a lot of these broadcasters, like a guy like Len Blavatnik, who's a very rich Ukrainian gentleman. This is a guy who's made his money in energy, right? And gas and oil. So this is almost does this the zone project is almost like a hobby to him. So a lot of these people that invest in boxing, even these broadcasters, for a lot of these broadcasters, boxing is like filler content. And a lot of these richer individuals that invest in boxing, it's almost like a hobby to them. It's like a novelty to them. It's they invest in it not because they want to make a profit on it. I'm sure they don't want to lose money on it, but it's not really their bread and butter. It's not their big money maker in their portfolio. So it's something that they enjoy and something that they believe in, and it's something that they love. Like Turkey Al Sheikh loves boxing, and again, we're not going to get into the politics of it all, but we know what the politics of it all is when with Saudi Arabia. But again, Turkey Al Sheikh, I do believe loves boxing. I do believe that he looks at it as like one of his pet projects. So again, boxing as a whole has not been uh, a sport that has made money consistently over the years. Like a lot of boxing shows lose money, regularly lose money. Not all of them make money, and the majority of them, it's almost like the restaurant business. Yeah, you have some great restaurants out there, some great restaurant chains that do well, but the majority of restaurants fail. Just like in boxing, the majority of these shows fail, and you only have a handful of fighters like an Eddie Hearn, right? Like a Frank Warren. You can throw Golden Boy in there, I guess, PBC in there. They get these rights deals from the broadcaster, so they're playing with house money, so they're not losing their money, but the broadcaster is not making a ton of money. The zone is in the hole for 936 million over the course, I think, of 7 or 8 years. So they've never really turned a profit, and they're just investing and hoping for future growth, and they're trying to cut their losses at this point. So again, boxing has not been a moneymaker in general for a lot of these broadcasters and a lot of these people who invest in it. Like a lot of them just do it for like I said, broadcasters do it for filler content, and a lot of these investors do it because they have an admiration for the sport. It's almost like a nostalgia effect to them. Just like a guy who collects cars. I mean, a lot of cars depreciate in value, but if someone likes cars, then they just want to buy them because they like them. Then they're going to buy them, not necessarily always to get a return on investment. So let's bring in Hamid real quick. Let's see what he has to say about this. I don't know if you were able to watch the card yesterday. I don't know what your thoughts are about the card. I don't know what your thoughts are on Zuffa boxing, but I pretty much gave you my opinion. What are your thoughts on Zuffa boxing and the card in general last night?
I thought it was a terrible card, and Zuffa boxing is very bad for boxing. Nah, I'm just kidding. I
I,
only watched. I only watched the main event and a bit of the. Which fight was it? A couple of fights on the card, just bits of it. I just couldn't get through the whole card because I did kind of like wake up. I think it was quite late because I didn't sleep like what's it called that much the day before. But I watched most of the main event. I think there was a round I missed. I had the undercard. I saw some of it. I thought it wasn't a bad matchup for the main event. Like I know on paper Ocampo had been stopped, but like Callum Walsh, I think is still developing, or he may not be at the level that
it was a
is.
16. It was a 16th fight,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and Fondora in his 20th fight
Went
also
the distance. Yeah, went the
went the
distance.
distance. Errol Spence and Tim Zhu, they're probably a notch above, obviously.
But they just caught him cold, didn't it? Like Max
Well,
Kellerman had
and
it.
then they fought him at they fought him at lighter weights. That's number one, and number two, Errol
They were
Spence.
champions, didn't
Yeah,
they?
Errol Spence was a champion, and Tim Zhu was, I believe,
Yeah.
a champion at the time, if I'm not mistaken. Or yeah, I think he was. So that was Errol Spence's 24th fight, and I think it was Tim Tszyu's 23rd fight. So it's a little different. But again, in this environment, especially at 160, Callum Walsh, under the right circumstances, can become a champion. I mean, he's a solid fighter. Is he ever going to be a Errol Spence level? Maybe not, but there is a chance that he could get to a Tim Tszyu level with the right proper fights and the proper seasoning. I mean, he's 24 years old, and Tim Tszyu's like what I think 28, 29, maybe close to 30 if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah,
there's
so it wasn't. I agree with you. It wasn't a
yeah,
bad like matchup on paper, and
sure, sure.
he's obviously not at that level at the moment. So the undercard, a lot of people were saying was good, and he looked good. Like there were lots of it seemed like good fights. I didn't watch
Yeah,
every.
and like I said, just because a fight is like a 7-3, 8-2, if the rounds are somewhat competitive, it's not like the guy who lost didn't belong in the ring. Like we see these cards on DAZN, like
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
Lima
And
had no business, with all due respect, ever being in the ring with Jaron Boots Ennis. So
that's a fight
yeah,
we're paying for. This was free on YouTube over here. Like I think on the UFC channel, WWE channel,
yeah.
and I believe the Zuffa Boxing YouTube channel. I don't know in America. I think you had to pay for, was it Paramount Plus? But that's like quite cheap in it. It's like the same value I believe as was it ESPN Plus. So
Let's take a look though. Let's take a look at what Paramount Plus costs, right? So if you were to get the most expensive plan, it's like 1167 a month. If you were to get the cheaper plan, that's 750 a month. But look what you're getting with the most expensive plan. You're getting no ads. And I know people are complaining because the event's going to have a little bit of ads, right? Because all these live events have some ads. But for the most part, with you're not going to get a lot of ads. You're not going to get no ads with the other content. You're going to get movies and shows, which is something you're not going to get in DAZN. You're going to get CBS Live, and you're going to get all of Showtime. And then you get NFL. You're going to get the UFC. You're going to get the what's it, the Ultimate Champions League in soccer, which is the creme de la creme in soccer. And then you're going to get you get the Showtime series with the basic plan. When you compare that to the zone plan, let's pull up the zone plan real quick. Let's add the
the
zone.
zone is too expensive. It's even expensive in the UK, but I don't mind paying for it because fights like tonight I could just watch it. I don't need to look for a legal stream or get a Fire Stick or anything like that. I could just switch on the zone and watch it. But like,
So let's
the,
take a look. Let's take a look at the zone price though. It's like two and a half. The low. You compare the low tier to the Paramount Plus low tier. It's
and
two and a half.
you don't even get all the boxing really. We
Yeah, you don't
only
even
get
get
boxing. Yeah,
boxing. So you get this is two and a half times the price of the Paramount Plus, the lower plan, and look how much more you get with the Paramount Plus. And again, the quality of fights on DAZN have been very inconsistent, and you're not always getting a fight every month, and a lot of times the fights you're getting, you're saying to yourself, like, for what I'm paying, it's all about value for dollar. Like what you paid for last night is what was worth what you got. What you're paying for with the zone isn't worth what you're getting, at least in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinions agree with me. Now, if you were to get this mega plan here, the 449, right? This is three times the amount of the top level Paramount Plus deal. And you could say, oh, well, you're getting pay per views. But are you really getting pay per views? Are a lot of these fights you're going to be getting that are going to be labeled and billed as pay per views? Are they really pay per views? So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, in my opinion. So that's the thing, and you're dealing with a platform that is like
I don't like
almost
the commentators. I will say they should have mixed it about. Like I think Ward and Kellerman and what was it, Joe Tessito? We've seen that team like
yeah.
on ESPN, like because I like some of the other guys they got like Tava. I think they could have used him actually doing the
Well,
commentary.
maybe they'll slip
Switch
it.
it around,
Yeah,
yeah,
they'll
they should
switch it
switch it
around.
around. But
But
compared to the zone, I don't like the zone's commentators. I think apart from a couple, like I like Sergio Mora, I like Todd Grisham, but The majority of the rest of them,
Well,
I
I
don't think there's a
think
good commentary.
I think that commentary team last night, despite Max Kellerman's constant glazing of Zuffa, other
Yeah,
than
yeah, it's much
other,
better. Yeah, much
other
better.
than that, it's much better than the zone. The production was much better.
Much better. Yeah.
You see how the fights there was very little time in between fights. Dana White promised that we're going to keep the show flowing. That was something he said.
That's what they do in UFC, and that
Yeah,
was very good. That was
yeah.
impressive. Like that's what
So
I was saying that when Riyadh season they done a couple of shows at the beginning, like and they were taking time. I was saying don't do that. Like do what PBC do or do what UFC or what the Zuffa boxing
and
did
even on the
yesterday.
lower level cards, the zone does. They still have these like as Dana
Long,
White
yeah, yeah, long.
long drawn
What's
up
it called? Yeah,
these promos or these
promo. Yeah, that's the one. Promo. And
you know,
they keep like showing too many highlights and stuff like
many
that.
highlights and too much
Yeah.
footage of all already things that we've seen before. So I think the zone's in trouble here. That's just my opinion. And people
I,
say, "Oh
I
well,
was surprised with Turkey. That's why I was wondering why did Turkey put so much money into the zone now? Like, but I think Turkey's not going all in on Parabet. He's gonna. It looks like he still do
well."
shows on the zone.
I'm hearing he put some decent amount of capital up for Paramount too. But here's the thing: they have that huge rights fee deal from Paramount Plus too. So like the money that Turkey did have to put up, I'm sure it wasn't really substantial, you know. And Turkey's already pulling back. He's already pulling back on these events with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn trying to put this boots fight with Virgil Ortiz together. That was a fight that Turki Al-Sheikh, as you said, was previously interested in, but now he's no longer interested in it. So now they're running around scrambling. And why? And again, I said this. I said, these guys are idiots. They're talking shit about Zuffa boxing. Meanwhile, Turki Al-Sheikh is invested in Zuffa boxing, and he's put a lot of his attention and efforts into that. So now these guys are crazy because he's going to reallocate a lot of the money he was given to them over to Zuffa boxing. And a lot of these mid to lower level guys were guys that they could call up, right, and fill up their undercards. But now what's going to happen now that they don't have enough fighters potentially to fill up their undercards because a lot of those mid to lower level guys are going to be on Zuffa boxing now. So Eddie's talking all this shit, but let's see what really happens 6 months to a year down the road. I'm
Yeah,
curious to
yeah.
see what happens.
Look at the card. Look at the card they got next. Is it next month? I think at the beginning of next month they
Yeah,
got Rayo Venezuela fighting. They got what was it Butayev and I forgot his name. The guy he's fighting, I forgot his name. And then there's Gvozdik and Hot Rod. Like that's a very good card. The first one was more of like prospects and B level, you could say, guys, but. That's a good card, and if they keep doing cards like that, they'll start signing more
sure.
fighters like Jaya Pataya. So, like, I don't understand why they Bochek and Batayev. Yeah, that's a good fight. I think that's a very good card, and I think Turkey and Dana White they know what they're doing. It's gonna take a while, obviously, to kick in and sign the probably fighters they want, but they already got Jaya Pataya, and it looks like he's gonna fight McKaylin. That's I believe, a unification. If they could get that match, they already, I think, like already able to jump the gun and get all the big fights they want to try and put on, and then it'll I think kick in straight away. The thing I don't understand with the zone thing with what Eddie Hearn was doing, and even Oscar Goldenboy, they had the chance to make this fight. Late last year, and I think a lot of the blame at that time would fall on obviously Lima, Boots, and Matchroom opted to fight Lima because if they had made the fight, we could have got the fight out the way, and then you don't know, they could have maybe had a rematch without Turkey. Now I think they're gonna struggle. I don't think that fight's happening. If it does happen,
Well,
maybe.
do
At,
you think what I said is true that Turkey may reallocate a lot of the funds towards Zuffa boxing that he was given to those guys because those guys became too reliant on Turkey, whereas he could put more of his efforts into Zuffa boxing, and because these guys aren't overpricing themselves over there, and he doesn't have to break the bank, he could get much more events and be involved in much more events without having to put as much money up. Because again, you're dealing with guys who aren't looking to break the bank. Like
He won't have to overpay fighters. I don't think he's gonna have that much trouble. I think Dana White knows what he's doing. They obviously got to be a bit careful. They can't like underpay fighters as well at the same time, because I think there was a fighter on the undercard. I seen an interview. In his interview, he was saying he wanted more money, but like you got to try and pay the fighters what they.
Well, did you hear what Robert Garcia said? That a lot that the guys that he had on the card were got paid more than they ever got paid on other cards because again,
That's good, and that's why I think that's why Jaya Pataya signed with him. He's getting paid more than what Matchroom were offering. And that's why I was wondering why his last fight was on UFC Fight Pass, but nobody connected the dots. Like now, looking back at it,
Eddie openly said, I can't get fights for him.
yeah, no, but I'm saying UFC Fight Pass is owned by Dana White and the UFC in it, and Jaya Patai's last fight was on there. So, like, I can't believe nobody really, even myself, I didn't even think about it, but then he suddenly signed with them. It'll be interesting if they could get Usyk as well. Then I think they're just gonna be able to sign whoever they want. All they gotta do, like you said, Turkey's just gotta reallocate his money and start. What's it called? Paying these guys whatever he can and overpay him, and he could get.
We're gonna be back to square one, where these fights don't get made because Turkey Al Sheikh is not gonna be putting up and being as involved as he once was. We've seen the blueprint before with PBC and even when they were getting all that money, they still weren't always making the fights. So
But even when Turkey was putting the money in, we still, some of those fighters were not like taking the deals, or they were messing up, or they were not helping themselves out, whatever. Like I think Turkey's better off just doing this like with Dana White, because I posted it I think last year. I was even saying they really don't need all these promoters. Just get someone who could be one promoter, and that was Dana White in the end.
let me ask you this. Here's something that other people aren't thinking about. What if Canelo Alvarez deals with Zuffa Boxing? Like, what if Dana White becomes the partner token promoter along with Canelo Alvarez? Him and Canelo Alvarez will co-promote Canelo Alvarez events. What if we see a lot of that money that Turkey Al Sheikh was given to these other guys? What if he invests in some of these Netflix events, and what like Crawford versus Canelo.
That was the production. So
That was their production.
that could
That was
be.
same production team, similar production team, and Dana White was involved in that. So what if he starts using Dana White now for these marquee fights like he did for Canelo Crawford? And what if Canelo comes back and
Canelo's
where's it
got a
going to be? It's probably
Canelo's got a 2 or 3 fight deal with Turkey.
yeah.
His
So what if
next fight's
Dana
in September, so
what if
that
Dana
could
what if Dana promotes that fight and that fight's on Netflix? Who knows?
it could be on Netflix or it could be on Paramount Plus.
Let's see. Let's get another person's opinion on it. Jersey Bob, how you doing, brother?
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
What's going on?
I didn't watch the fights last night because I have Netflix. I got all these things. I'm not paying for Paramount. I got like 6 of these services. I'm
Understood.
not paying.
Understood.
So, and I don't like the UFC. So
That's fair.
now I'm glad there's new boxing. I'm glad there's a boxing outlet. But come on, you're talking about a very good coach, Ryo Valenzuela. I mean, he's a decent fighter. He just got knocked out. That's what we.
I don't think he got
He
knocked
just
out.
got knocked out his last fight. So come on, man. It's like Ocampa. I'm glad it's boxing. I watch any boxing, but we ain't talking about he putting on high level fighters.
Yeah, but he's
No,
only
you can
done one
have two
card.
regular fighters and have a good fight, yes. But you like Zuffa? I mean, come on, man. It's like
It's
pro
early
box.
days, so
It's
I
cool.
think some people are going, like, I'm not saying you, but I've seen other people say the same thing. I would give it like at least a couple of
Oh
cards,
no,
and
I
I'm
don't. I
glad.
want
I
to
like
correct. I
boxing.
want to correct what you just said. Ryo went the distance with Antoine Russell in his last fight.
I thought he got knocked
Yeah,
out.
it was a
But
good. It was a,
anyway,
it was a decent fight.
Okay,
But
I'm
that's a
sorry.
good card though. That's a good card because
Yeah.
compare that card. I know Ryo lost his
Well, let me
last
ask you
fight.
this, man. Do you pay for the zone?
Yes, but like I said, I watch. Man, I
You
watched
happy? Are you
Inaway.
happy with the
I watched
product you can
Inaway
get?
for free. I didn't pay for it, but I know a couple weeks later Inaway's coming on, so I watched the Inaway fight and the other fight for free. So
Okay.
I
That
consider
was
that
on pay
part of
per
my
view though.
price.
Interview
Yeah,
was
but
on
it
pay.
comes on later free. I'll wait 2 weeks to watch the fight. I
Yeah.
don't
Do you
need to watch it
mean
the night of the
on
fight.
Yeah.
YouTube or do you mean like on the
No, on
zone?
the zone. It's
All right,
free like 2 weeks later. Their
all
pay
right.
per view is gonna be free a couple weeks later. So
It
if you just
depends,
wait.
though. Sometimes you got to pay for them in order to get the access to them. They don't
No,
always
no,
give them to
no.
you.
You can trust me. I watched Inoue's fight a couple weeks after it was over. I don't care about watching it live or not. I watched that fight, and I watched like I was watching Usyk fight Dubois. I watched about the old fights on the zone. I watched the
Yeah, but they
fights
put
over.
everything on YouTube as well. Like I understand
I
they
mean,
do that, but I'm
is
just
There's a lot of those fights that are on the zone. They're on YouTube the next day too.
yeah, yeah.
that's
But I'm
true.
saying for just for live
So
boxing, like
you're pretty happy with your DAZN subscription then?
I mean, I'm not happy paying $20 a month, but I use it. So I'm paying my $20. I literally watch a fight every night. I'm not exaggerating. I will watch some kind of fight on the zone. So to me, if I watch a fight every night, it's worth $20. If I
So
wasn't watching it, it wouldn't be worth it.
let me kind of make an assessment of what you said. So you may not watch all these fights live, but you're saying I'll eventually go back in the library and I'll watch these fights,
Yes.
and you're happy with that. And you know what?
Yes.
You have to be happy with what you're buying, and no one should tell you what you should like and what you don't like. If you don't like what so far what's being presented to you in Zuffa boxing, if that's not something that gets your juices flowing, then hey, don't buy you. I mean, that's a fair
But
you gave a fair
last
assessment.
night, last night there was some fights on Golden Boy. I didn't know who those guys were. I was watching that. It was like 11 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah,
I live in the East Coast. I was watching that.
yeah.
So for me, the zone's worth my money because I watch it. Now, if I wasn't watching it, if I didn't watch it the way I'm watching it, I can see why people are like I'm not paying that for the zone. But I watch some of these guys. I don't know who they are. I'll be turning on. I see fights from overseas. I watch them. So I use the zone. I don't think I would use the Paramount. That's why I'm not paying for it. Cause I watch Netflix, I watch Prime, I watch Peacock. It's already. I don't need another one. I just can't pay for another one.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
no,
yeah,
it's
but
fair.
saying?
that's what they said about the zone as well, though.
Yeah,
It depends on the
you
content.
would you would probably have to cancel one of your other ones in order to justify buying this one, and you're not going to do that right now because they haven't
So my
shown.
wife
But
watches Netflix. We watch Prime for basketball. Now Prime got NBA basketball. Peacock got NBA basketball, which I watch. So the services I have, I use them, and
yeah,
I just
I'm not paying at the moment for that. But I'm saying when they start getting the bodies, like say if they start signing fighters like Usyk, and they start getting fights like say if David Benavidez and Jaya Pataya's on there, and they start filling up their roster, then I think it'll become
I
like
think there's
a
going to be
big.
changes. I think there's going to be a lot of changes down the road, and I think once Turkey starts reallocating a lot of those funds and starts focusing more on Zuffa boxing and less on these other guys, I think
It'll
potentially.
be a competitive the zone in it. That's what
Yeah,
it'll end up
you're
becoming.
gonna see. I think within probably 6 months to a year, I think the landscape is going to change. That's just my. I
I
could be
mean,
wrong. It's my
no,
opinion.
I'm not married to the zone. If it changes and they have a bunch of good fights, I could always get that and stop paying the $20 a month
You
for the
gotta.
zone.
You're not ready to jump ship just yet. You want them to show you something in order for you to make that move. That's
And
fair.
like I said, there's fights. I mean, there's fights even from 2024. You can watch a bunch of fights on the zone. I know you can watch it on YouTube. It's easy for me to go on the
Yeah,
zone and I watch. I like watching Shakur Stevenson's. I go watch. I like watching. Boots Ennis. I go
Yeah,
watch
yeah,
his old
that's
fights.
he's right because the zone. The thing with the zone is they have the whole card I think on there. So all the
Yeah,
old
you can find these
in the
cards. You
library
can
you can
find
find
the
but
the whole
here's the
card.
fights.
thing. I believe, and from what I've been told, the CBS Showtime fights that you had on Showtime, they're gonna have that archive on Paramount too. So
And
they're
that
gonna
would be good.
they're gonna
That
have a
would
lot.
that would interest me.
Yeah, they're gonna have a Showtime library of fights there too. You're gonna be able to watch all them old Showtime fights on Paramount Plus. So
But
that's something to think about. So I
it
mean,
Now, if
it
they have
depends
that,
on.
yeah, that's a selling point for me. If they
yeah,
could put all those old fights on
yeah,
there,
they're gonna have their
then
library.
I would be more interested in buying. So when that happens, I
I think
can
I think they
always
have it all.
change.
I think they have it already.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll do some more research on it. But from what I understand, they're saying you're going to have access to Showtime content. It's the same thing with Amazon Prime. They have access to a lot of those old Showtime fights too. So
See, the problem is here. I think it may be a bit cheaper, but they don't have the UFC on there. They have it on TNT still. In America, because they got both the UFC and they got all the Zuffa boxing on there. If I was like living in there, I would end up probably paying for it, depending on the price. But because I watch also the UFC, like the card tonight's a pay-per-view here, so I'm gonna have to stream it. I'll try and stream that and watch the boxing on the zone, the Andy Cruz fight with Morataya. But like stuff like that, that's a selling point to me. So it depends on the on the person what they want from it. Because at the moment, if you're just looking at not Zuffa, Paramount Plus, or say if you're just a boxer fight, they don't really have many, fighters at the moment. As soon as he starts signing and picking them up, like say if he could start signing guys like Usyk, maybe Bam Rodriguez, those are the two names I heard, and he could start, putting up a proper schedule, then I think more people will just start, jumping to that for the boxing. Because I think the zone are not really value for money at the moment in terms of their boxing. They got too much stuff on pay per view. So unless you're willing to pay for their premium, I think a lot of people I've heard that they've just cancelled their subscription.
I don't have the zone anymore. I
Yeah,
canceled.
because there's a pay per view every
Yeah.
month, and you're paying for a subscription, and then they're asking you to pay like a premium on top.
Yeah, and then
And
when
I
you buy Paramount Plus, if you get the
no pay per views in it.
no, you get the Plus
But
package. They give you Showtime free too. They give you CBS free, like the CBS app free. So, I mean,
thing
it's
is, Zuffa doesn't have anybody to put on pay-per-view. Not for boxing yet. I'm sure they will, but
No, but they
they
got
don't
they
have
got
anybody
UFC.
that
They got
anybody would pay
UFC.
for.
But they got
Yeah, I
UFC.
don't like UFC,
No, no,
so
but I'm
that's not.
saying,
Yeah.
their product is not going to be on pay per view. That's what I think they set out because the UFC was on what was it ESPN pay per view all
yeah.
those years. It's gone straight to Paramount just for the subscription. So if they're doing it with UFC, which is at the moment much bigger than boxing, than the Oddfree Super Fight, then I think they'll end up moving the boxing just to, just subscription based. Because if Canelo and Crawford, which they promoted, was like on Netflix part of the subscription, I don't think they're gonna start putting on pay per views. I think the zone have oversaturated the pay per view market. I know before that it was other,
To be honest with you, this is my opinion, and I could be way wrong on this. I think a lot of these fights that would be pay per view, quote unquote pay per view, are going to be moved to Netflix. So a lot of these Riyadh season cards, like if, for instance, if Jaya Pataya ends up being in a mega event, I think they're going to put it on Netflix instead of a pay per view. That's what I think is going to
but
Uh,
happen.
do they
I
have
have
a
to ask
deal
you a
with
question,
Netflix?
Joe. How could Jai Albertine ever be in a major event, man? I've watched him fight. Come on, man. This guy's he's decent. He can't be in a major event. He's not that good. He's
Yeah,
not
I
good
mean,
enough for me to pay for.
it's
He's
But
not.
you're not paying for Netflix,
you know
so
what's
I
crazy.
mean,
You know
I'm
what's
not paying
crazy.
for Jai Albertine to fight ever.
You have a
I've
good
watched him
you have
fight
a
on the zone. I'm not paying for him.
even though he's the ring champion and people say he's the best cruiserweight in the world.
I'm not impressed. Seriously,
yeah.
I'm
But
not
how
impressed
would you
at all.
how would
Let
you
me get
pay
this off.
extra if he's on Netflix?
Let me get this off, Hamid. I also said something similar to what you said, maybe not to the same degree you said it, but outside of Marius Briedis, who is he really beating? That's what I'm saying. So we don't really know how. Like people say he could beat a guy like Zerto Ramirez. People say he could beat a David Benavidez. Well, let's see him do it. You still
Yeah,
got
How
to
many
see.
but
Australians?
that's
How many Australians we seen this guy beat up?
I
Come
agree
on.
with that, but that's not the point. Was if he's in a mega fight, if him and David Benavidez fight, say next Cinco de Mayo, and Benavidez has beaten Zerdo and it's one disputed, I think that's a big fight. Like especially if you do it the right way and put it, say, on Mexican Independence Day or Cinco de Mayo, and you put it in, somewhere in, like, say, in Las Vegas, because he's gonna make his Las Vegas debut in March. So they're trying to get him to now, get him to introduce him to the American and Vegas audience. And then from there on in, I just think he needs to get the fights. If you can start fighting, better
He
opponents.
he
But
has a, but let me just tell you this, Jersey Bob. And again, you may be right. We don't know, but if they market him and promote him right, and they get him the right fights and put him on this platform and get him in front of a U.S. audience consistently, and
He's a fan-friendly fighter.
they see him blow out a few guys here and there. Is that what you were saying, Hamid? I agree with you if that's what you were
Yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah. Get him and David Benavidez.
They can build this guy because he's got a fan friendly style. He's got a good personality. I know what you're saying right now. A lot of people don't know him, but
Yeah,
he has a lot of potential. This
I'm
guy.
not completely sold on him. I agree with him. He's only fought Marius Bradis, and the
He has,
Bradis was
he has,
almost 40. I think he was 40 in the rematch. But
yeah.
that's his only notable wins. But like I said, and like you just said, if you market him the right way,
He's got
if you
potential.
well, here's the
promote him the
problem
right
with
way,
boxing. Who thinks it's a good idea for David Benavidez to go up 200 pounds? You gotta be stupid. His dad. Why would you send him up to 200 pounds?
he's
I
already
mean, that's
cut the
dumb to
weight.
me.
He's
That's
cut it.
stupid.
You
Now
know,
he
Yeah,
might fight. Why would you do that? This is
I
what's
was.
wrong with boxing.
I'll be honest
How
with
would you
you.
have him go up to cruiserweight?
I'll be
It
honest.
makes no sense.
I
I'll be
spoke to
honest with you.
him.
I'll be
Could I
honest with
just
you.
say?
I'll be honest with you. I was disappointed that he's not waiting to fight Bivol or Beterbiev. That kind of
But
pissed me
they're not
off.
helping
Yes.
themselves out as well, though. Like they've both not fought since the rematch. Like we don't even know what's going on, and Bivol is gonna fight his IBF mandatory. So, like when people start saying stuff like that, you're trying to say he should wait another year
So
just for
go up
that.
25 pounds.
No, but
That's the answer.
he's cutting weight. People keep saying 25, but he's already struggling to cut down. I heard to make even the light heavyweight limit. So,
I mean, he's 29 years old. He's only had what, like 2 or 3 fights. What, he had 3 fights at light
but
heavyweight.
did you see the video with him and Ryan Garcia? He looked at least 220 or 30 pounds. Like he must be cutting to get down to cruiserweight. That's what I heard as well. So when he's making light heavyweight, I don't think it's easy. And I spoke to him in 2021, and he told me back then when he was a super middleweight, he said he walks around or he cuts down from 190. I think 193 or something.
Why can't he fight somebody like Caleb Smith? Why can't he fight a
Callum
Josh?
Smith turned down the
Thank
fight.
you.
Why
Yes.
Callum
can't he
Smith took
fight?
the fight.
Yeah, but why can't he fight? They could
There's guys he could fight.
they
No,
could make.
I
Nobody.
agree, but Zerdo's a bigger fight, though. I think we got to look at it as well.
Why can't they fight Callum Smith? Why can't they fight Joshua Buatsi? Why can't they fight Willie Hutchinson, Zach Parker, Craig Richards while they're
Are
waiting?
those bigger fights so than Zerdo? I would say if he,
But you have to go to 200 pounds. Why?
yeah,
How does
but
that make
All
sense?
right, let me ask you this.
he's
Let me
not a
ask
small
you
guy.
this. Why wouldn't you rather fight for undisputed at light heavyweight though
He
against the
could do that. He could do that crucially. Why, like you guys say, Jaya Patai is not all that beat Zerdo, and then you and Jaya Patai could get it on. And I think that's a fight that could go either way because I'm not completely sold on Jaya Patai, and I'm not
I don't,
100%.
I don't know if Jaya Pataya beats David Benavidez.
Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
That's a fight. That's the easier fight to make for undisputed. Now that Jai's with Turkey and Zuffa and David, I believe if David stays with PBC, they'll let him go back because Ryo and these guys are all PBC fire. The only thing is if Golden Boy get hold of David, say David beats Zudo and Oscar signs him. I don't know, Oscar and Turkey, I don't think they may not work again for a while, it seems. So that's the only caveat. But I would say
What the fuck
So
Oscar De La Hoya is
here's
doing?
my question for everybody, and I'm a Dave Benavidez fan. How do we know he's going to be good at 200 pounds fighting? How do we know?
Yeah, we don't.
well, we're gonna find out in May
I
in
mean,
his
you're going
fight
to
with
find
Zid.
out, but
He's
if
fight,
you're
but
going to
he's
risk
fight.
your fighter and go up to 200 pounds, Like
He,
I don't understand that.
he's fighting a guy that's also moved up, who's a super middleweight. So this is a
Yeah,
perfect
I
fight.
mean, he's fighting a guy who's not really a 200 pounder either. You're right,
No, no,
but
they
Jaya
both,
Bataille is a real 200 pounder.
yeah, but they both, him and Zudo are both cutting weight, and if they're able to
Zudo,
win,
both of them
Yeah,
eat too
but
much. Let's
but
keep it real.
did you?
Both of them don't they honestly they eat too
That's
much
true.
food.
That's
That's
true.
why they
But
fighting at that weight. They need to be disciplined.
yeah, but
Be
did
disciplined and
you?
stop eating so much
No,
food. It's a
I
pure
agree with
boxing.
that. But that's what Tyson Fury does a lot. Some of these boxers do that. I know a heavyweight is a bit different because they don't have a limit. But if you've seen Jaya Patai's last fight, he did get hurt and he's been, um, what's it called, buzzed. I think before he had his what was his jaw broken by Bradis. If he's able to do a number on Zerdo and then have another fight against maybe a legitimate or a natural cruiserweight who's not at his way up to there or ballooned up, then I think him and Upper Thai is a fight that should be in the near future. If not this year, then maybe early next year. And I think it's a winnable fight
who do you think?
because
Who do you think's going to win tonight? You think Andy Cruz is going to beat? Is
I
going
would
to?
have to favor Andy Cruz. I don't know what you guys think.
You think he's going to beat Matalia? Matalia got like 17 knockouts.
Mataya had a really close fight to Tevin Farmer. I thought
Yeah,
that was
23 fights. I'm picking Andy Cruz too, but that's a good
no,
fight.
it's a good matchup. But Andy Cruz looks to be, based on the eye test, it doesn't always matter. He looks to be the guy that I think a lot of people are saying could have even beaten Keyshawn Davis. He was his biggest rival.
Yeah.
The thing with Martaya is he's a good fighter, but I don't know if he's like a bona fide champion because I thought
What do you think? What do you think of the undercard though? The undercard's not that great.
I don't think I mean that's what I was trying to see. Like with the Zuffa boxing card, the cards we see on the zone and these undercards, are they really much better? Like,
These these
and what we had,
these undercards like from the zone, like you watch the card and like you're falling asleep.
there's a lot of fluff in it.
Yeah, you fall asleep
And
until you get to the main event, man. You know what I'm saying?
they're meant to be contenders or fighters that are like at a different stage. What we saw in Zuffa boxing was a lot of prospects or fighters early in the pro career. I'm not talking about the main event.
A
I'm
lot
just
of
talking
these
about
guys, a lot of these guys, they're coming off long layoffs. These like they pull guys off the couch on some of these undercards, like these DAZN cards, because these guys have been out. Like at least these guys with Zuffa, they'll probably stay active. They'll probably be put in front of the a live audience and people will be able to see them. And I just think that these guys are going to get more exposure. They're going to have more
they
fun.
will get more exposure because of one thing. The Zone is still not a mainstream app in America
Yeah, not a lot
or
of people.
even the UK. Paramount
So,
Plus is bigger. Netflix is bigger.
Joe,
You
I
going to
appreciate you. Let me. I gotta go in and visit my mom. I'll keep
go
listening, but I want to say one thing. If
ahead,
I
man.
was Zuffa, I would have these guys fighting 6 times a year. I've been saying for pro box, I would have my guys on all the time, so people actually know who they are. They will be in the ring every 2 months. You're gonna fight. I don't care who you fight. We used to be bumming the month club. I'm just having you fight so people will be like, oh, he's fighting again. Yes, he's fighting again. So people would know. That's how you got to change boxing. You got to have these guys on more often. And Pro Box dropped the ball because they got all the Pro Box should have about 30 fighters and having the dudes fight like every couple months. That's why I wouldn't have a big roster. I have my guys fight all the time. These are my Pro Box guys, and I'm gonna showcase them and try to get them to be popular. So
Yeah,
maybe Zuffa would do that. What do you think about that plan?
that's
I,
that's
I,
that's
I think
that's
you're
a
going a
dream.
bit,
That's a dream plan that everyone would want, right?
but I think
But,
it's not feasible if we're being honest. I would say even if they're fighting 3 or 4 times a
well,
year,
I would like to at least see him fight 4 times a year,
that's
especially
what I was saying, three or
if
four times. But
you're a 6 to 8 round fighter, you should at least be fighting 4 times a year.
yeah,
So yeah,
but even fighters at the highest stage, like if I know he could fight 4 times a year, why can't these guys fight at least 3 times a year?
Bob, I
Like,
think you make a good point, man. I don't hate your suggestion at all, man. I don't hate
yeah,
it.
but I don't
And
think
just when did Ryo fight? Because I really thought he got knocked. I forgot. I know he lost. I thought he got knocked out because it's been so long ago that I
He,
saw the fight. And I know
he
I'm getting
lost on the
older.
undercard. He
I
lost
know
on
he
the undercard.
lost, but when
That was
was
in
that?
last match. The last match,
Yeah, it's
on the,
too long. You gotta
almost a
get
year ago.
guys. Got to get in the ring. They have to fight. I mean, it's the problem with boxing. We see
That's
these
the problem
guys
with
and we
PBC,
see
though.
them
I
once
think
a year. They got to get in the ring. But that's so good. Zuffa's gonna have these guys active. That's a great thing.
that's the main problem with
Yeah,
PBC. I
I
think.
think these guys will be more active on Zuffa. That's just my prediction, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
I'll be listening.
Thank,
Thanks.
All right, yeah.
thank you, man. Nice to hear from you.
That's the problem with the PBC, I believe. You had guys like Charlo who have a
He
payday.
made he made some good points, man, because a lot of people are kind of tapped out with their subscriptions, right? A lot of people have a ton of subscriptions out there, and even though this subscription is cheaper, they're going to have to make a decision. Do I want to pay more, add another subscription to my portfolio, or do I want to just say fuck it and I'm going to cancel one of them and then replace it with this?
People will end up canceling the zone because of one reason. Like I said, um, with Paramount Plus, at least they won't be doing pay per views every month. They're gonna obviously work on their schedule and the actual subscribers. Sorry, cater to their subscribers. With the zone, I don't know what they were doing. The, PPC used to do that. Like, I don't know why you'd start putting everything on pay per view, anything half decent. And this was a problem in the UK. I remember it started with Eddie Hearn, a Matchroom, and then Frank Warren started doing the Sky Sports car with Ben Shalom. They start putting, fights that I don't think should have been on pay per view. When you start doing that, you're just losing subscribers, especially if the content on your subscription of that whatever app is not really something worth paying for. Because at one point I was paying for TNT, The Zone, and I think I was even paying for Triller. Like, every other there was a like an international card or something or pay per view, and they weren't that expensive. But I was thinking, what is the point even paying for subscriptions if I'm gonna get have to pay for this, that, and other. Now I'm only paying for the zone, and I'm not too mad at it. But last year I thought there was too many pay per views. A lot of them I didn't even end up paying because I didn't think they were worth it. Like Dylan White and was it Moses Tama, Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker.
That was ridiculous.
These are fights. These are
So here's
fights I
the thing.
don't.
Here's the thing. Not to cut you off, but we're gonna give you pay-per-views now in your subscription, bro. That is not a pay-per-view fight.
I
Fucking
agree. I agree with that. But the thing I would say is because I'm paying for it upfront or whatever for the premium, at least still be included. At least I don't have to pay. But
how much
I,
is the premium gonna be in the UK?
I think it was the minimum. If you paid upfront for annually, it would have been £19 a month. Because I didn't want to pay upfront. I think it
19
was.
months a month.
I'm paying about £23 a month for it at the moment because that's just monthly. So it's a 12-month contract, and I didn't mind doing that because I thought at that time I just didn't want to pay. I think it was,
176 pounds. What is that?
yeah, I didn't want to pay 200.
What's that converted to US dollars? Let me see. 269 pounds to dollars. So it's like $376.60.
I'm paying £23 a month at the moment. I think that's about
What is the if you paid for the year, how much is it a month for you?
if you paid for the whole year upfront, is equals to £19 a month.
19 pounds a month times 12, 228 pounds.
Yeah, you could pay 220 something.
228
I'm
pounds.
I'm paying 23 a month, so I think it's gonna cost me 270 something for the year. But like I said, if they're gonna put pay per views on there,
That's $311. So
that's not bad. For I think for you
it's not
guys, it's too much in
it's
it.
not horrible.
For you guys, it's like $500 or something. I don't know
No,
what I don't know.
it's like four forty. I think it's like 445 if we pay up front.
Yeah, but if you don't pay up front and you pay monthly, it's like 500.
Robbie,
Steve Kim said it's about
said,
500.
I'm not trying to throw shade on anyone, but a lot of people that I know can't afford the 450 up front.
I wouldn't even be able to afford that. I could barely do the 20, what was it, 23? But that was because I don't pay for Sky anymore. TNT is not worth it. The problem with TNT, they also put in every UFC card on pay per
No,
view.
even though I can afford it, just the fact that you got to fucking put that much money up front, like, and you don't even know what the fights you're going to be getting, it doesn't sit well with me. I don't know about you.
It's not the thing I have a problem is there's other boxes like PBC put on the
You know,
Isaac Cruz.
not to cut you off, but you know how big of a scumbag they are now. They don't even let you dip in and out anymore. You
Yeah,
have
yeah. That's why I
who
had
the
to get.
fuck? Who in the fuck? What
No,
kind
because
of?
they realized people were doing that. That's what I used to do up until 2022 or 2023. Like for the Canelo Bivol and Golovkin Morata fights, I just paid for the month and then I unscribed. And I used to do that up.
With Netflix, you could dip in and out. With I believe with Paramount Plus, you could dip in and out too.
You could do it with everything. Like the problem I have with the zone thing is they don't have top rank content on there. They don't have PBC content on there, and there was a pay per view every month. Like I ended up because I thought they put everything on pay per view. I thought I'll just get the premium because I looked at your prices and I was thinking if they're gonna be charging people like that much on the like in other territories, I don't mind paying for it. Like if we're gonna get a new part of the thing, even though I agree with you, how many of these are actually pay
They're
per
not pay per
views?
views. What's his name? Fucking Moses Atamu versus Dillian White is nowhere near a pay per view. Not even in the UK, let alone the US. It's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I think if they were putting fights like Fury, Usyk, Bertebiev, Bivol that on part of the DAZN monthly subscription, then I think it would have been okay. But when you put in fights that I don't think should be on pay per view, they I think they're just conning and they're ripping off the fights. I gotta go in a minute. But what do you think about this then going forward? Like if they got fights like Gvozdyk, guys like Ryo, I think they can start adding, like you say, if
Look,
they could get the low and mid tier, they can start signing the big
what if
guys.
they take half the PBC roster? What if they take the top half the top rank roster? I'm telling you, man, this can be big, bro. This can be.
I think it could be big. One last thing I will say is if they get Usyk, guy like Bam and Canelo, then I think they're just gonna end up signing more and more. Like,
Robert Garcia said something very revealing yesterday. He said a lot of his fighters want to go over there. And let me ask you this: how much is Bam really making? Right? How much is Bam really making? And how active is Bam? And how
I'm
hard
not
is
sure. I'm not sure
how
how much
hard
he's
is it
making.
been? So Robert Garcia said something very revealing yesterday. A lot of my fighters want to go over there. And what if Bam is one of those, like you just said? So I don't know, man. This thing could blow up, man. In my opinion, it could blow up. When I say blow up, I mean in a good way, not in a bad way, right? So, all right, man. I'm gonna head out myself, man. It was great talking. I thought Jersey Bob's perspective was a great perspective because it was something that other people haven't really been talking about. Is like, why do I want to add another subscription? Well, like I said, maybe you don't want to add another subscription, but maybe you want to get rid of one and add this in its place. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. Could you be before you go? Yeah. Thanks for having me on. We'll see what happens. At the moment, I'm not paid for it, but if they start putting on more content, then I will end up paying for it. I
All
think
right.
it'll be worth it.
All
But
right.
we'll see what happens, man.
All right,
I'll
man. We'll
catch you
catch
soon,
up,
man.
man. Nice talking to you, man. All right, man. All right, guys, make sure you check out the Ringside Reporter podcast every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time with my partner, Eric Lorda. And I am out. Enjoy the fights tonight. This is a pretty good fight. I'm not crazy about the undercard, but it is what it is. We'll have to deal with that. Yeah. All right, man. Peace out. We'll see y'all later, man. Be safe, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.